Lily Morgan pressed her fingers against the desk, feeling the faint vibration of footsteps approaching from behind. She did not need to turn around to know someone was coming. The rhythm was familiar, quick, and purposeful. She saved her work. On the computer screen, a poster advertising the upcoming Grand Symphony Gala, then looked up to see Mrs. Patricia Walsh standing beside her with a gentle smile. Lily watched her supervisor's lips carefully as Patricia spoke slowly and clearly. The foundation was grateful for her beautiful designs. The colors were perfect. The layout captured the elegance of the event. Lily felt warmth spread through her chest. Recognition always felt precious when it came without pity attached to it. Patricia placed a thick cream envelope on the desk. Lily stared at it, noting the gold embossed lettering that spelled out her name. Her supervisor's lips moved again, explaining that Lily deserved to attend the gala she had worked so hard to promote. Before Lily could respond, two figures appeared at her cubicle entrance. Rachel Foster and James Chen smiled too widely there, expressions carrying that artificial brightness Lily had learned to distrust. Rachel's lips formed exaggerated words, speaking slowly as if Lily were a child. They insisted she absolutely must come to the gala. She had earned it. She belonged there among the guests who would appreciate the event she had helped create. Lily's hands moved in careful signs, expressing her uncertainty. She explained that she would not hear the music, that perhaps her presence would seem strange. James laughed and waved his hand dismissively. His lips shaped words about how appearance mattered more than hearing, how she could enjoy the atmosphere and the spectacle. Something twisted in Lily's stomach, but she found herself nodding. Perhaps they were being genuine. Perhaps she was being too suspicious. She lifted the envelope and felt its expensive weight in her palm. That evening, she sat in her modest apartment holding a simple burgundy dress borrowed from her neighbor. The fabric felt soft against her skin as she tried it on, studying her reflection in the narrow mirror. She looked ordinary. Her brown hair fell in waves past her shoulders. Her hazel eyes seemed too large for her face. Nothing about her suggested. She belonged at a venue where crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings and champagne flowed like water. Yet she wanted to believe that maybe, just once, she could step into that world without feeling like an outsider. The night of the gala arrived with unexpected swiftness. Lily smoothed her dress nervously as she stepped out of the taxi in front of the Grandview Hotel. The building rose before her like a palace carved from light and marble. Couples in elegant evening wear glided through the entrance. Women in silk gowns laughed soundlessly beside men in tailored tuxedos. Lily clutched her small purse and walked forward, her heels unsteady on the polished steps. Inside, the ballroom stretched endlessly beneath massive chandeliers that scattered golden light across hundreds of guests. Round tables draped in white linen surrounded a stage where an orchestra sat preparing their instruments. Lily felt the vibrations in the floor, subtle pulses that told her music would soon fill the space. She scanned the room until she spotted Rachel and James. Waving from a table near the front, she made her way carefully between chairs and approached them. They greeted her with broad smiles, gesturing for her to sit. Other colleagues from the foundation were already seated, sipping wine from crystal glasses. Lily settled into her chair and tried to relax, but the weight of eyes on her felt heavy. She caught fragments of conversation from nearby tables, lips forming words she wished she had not understood. Someone asked why the deaf girl from the design team had been invited. Another person wondered if it was some kind of publicity stunt. A woman in a blue gown leaned toward her companion and mouthed words about how awkward it must be for someone like Lily to attend a music event. Each comment landed like a small stone against her chest, building into a wall that made breathing difficult. The orchestra began playing. Lily felt the vibrations grow stronger, felt them resonate through the floor and into her bones. She could sense the rhythm, the rise and fall of tempo, but the melody remained forever out of reach. Around her, guests closed their eyes and swayed. They smiled with pleasure. They shared knowing glances about the beauty of the performance. Lily sat motionless, her hands folded in her lap, trying to appear engaged while feeling completely alone. Behind her, Rachel leaned close to James. Lily caught their reflections in the polished surface of a nearby wine glass. Rachel's lips moved in exaggerated slowness as she made a cruel joke about how Lily probably thought the violinists were just moving their arms for exercise. James covered his mouth, but his shoulders shook with laughter. Another colleague joined in, making a show of conducting an invisible orchestra with mocking gestures. Lily's throat tightened. She focused on the stage, on the way light glinted off the brass instruments, on anything except the people behind her who had invited her only to humiliate her. She told herself to endure until the performance ended. She would slip out quietly during the applause she could not hear, turn to her small apartment, and forget this night ever happened. Then a presence shifted the air beside her. A tall figure, in a perfectly tailored black suit, moved into the empty chair at her side. Lily turned her head, startled, and found herself looking into the most intense gray eyes she had ever seen. The man's features were sharp and refined. His dark hair was swept back with precision. Its expression carried an authority that seemed to silence the room without a single word spoken. Lily recognized him instantly. Victor Sterling. His face appeared on magazine covers and business news programs. He controlled one of the largest entertainment empires in the country. People whispered about his brilliance and his coldness in equal measure. And now he sat beside her, his attention fixed entirely on her face. Victor's hands lifted slowly. His fingers formed shapes Lily had never expected to see in such a place. The signs were clear and deliberate, flowing with practiced ease. He told her something that made her heart stop, that made the cruel laughter behind her fade into nothing. His hand shaped 3 words that changed everything. I see you. Lily's breath caught in her throat. The ballroom seemed to shrink until only the space between her and Victor Sterling existed. His gray eyes held hers with an intensity that felt almost physical, as if he could see past the careful walls she had built around herself. She blinked rapidly, fighting the sudden burning behind her eyes. No one had signed to her in public like this. No one in this glittering world of wealth and privilege had ever acknowledged her language as worthy of their attention. Hands trembled as she lifted them, signing back with hesitant movements. She asked him why he had come to sit beside her, why he had chosen to speak in her language. Victor's expression remained unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes. He signed again, his movements fluid and confident. He told her he had been watching from across the room. He had seen the mockery, the cruel laughter barely hidden behind false smiles. He had recognized the isolation that pressed down on her shoulders, even in a room full of people. Behind them, the laughter had died completely. Rachel and James sat frozen, their faces pale with shock. Other guests at nearby tables had noticed Victor's presence, and whispers rippled outward like waves across water. Lily could see lips forming his name, see the recognition spreading through the crowd. The most powerful man in the entertainment industry had abandoned his table near the stage to sit with the deaf designer everyone had been mocking. The orchestra finished their piece. Applause erupted around them, hands clapping in rhythm Lily could feel through the floor. Victor did not join the applause. Instead, he reached across the small distance between their chairs and gently took Lily's hand. The touch was brief but deliberate, a gesture clearly visible to everyone watching. A woman in an emerald gown approached their table. Her lips moved with practiced elegance as she greeted Victor, her eyes sliding toward Lily with thinly veiled curiosity. She asked Victor if he was enjoying the performance, if his companion was someone special. Victor stood smoothly, his hand moving to rest lightly on the back of Lily's chair. When he spoke aloud, his voice carried across the table with quiet authority. He introduced Lily by name, stating clearly that she was with him tonight. The words were simple, but they carried weight that pressed against the room like a physical force. Rachel's wineglass trembled in her hand. James looked away quickly, his earlier amusement replaced by something that resembled fear. The woman in emerald smiled uncertainly and retreated, her questions unanswered. Victor sat down again, and this time he angled his chair slightly closer to Lily. Throughout the rest of the performance, he remained beside her. When guests approached to speak with him, he included her in the conversation, sometimes signing a quick summary when the speaker's lips moved too fast for her to follow. When servers offered food and wine, he ensured she received her choices first. Each small gesture built upon the last, until the people around them began to understand that dismissing Lily meant dismissing Victor, Sterling himself. The gala finally ended near midnight. Guests began filtering toward the grand lobby, their conversations animated with speculation. Lily stood on unsteady legs, her mind spinning with confusion, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Victor guided her through the crowd with a hand at the small of her back, his presence clearing a path that others instinctively moved aside to create. Outside, cool night air touched Lily's flushed cheeks. City lights reflected off the sleek black cars lined along the curb. A driver opened the door of a midnight blue sedan, and Victor gestured for Lily to enter. She hesitated, glancing back at the hotel as if she might still escape back into her ordinary life. But Victor's steady gaze held her in place. She found herself sliding into the leather seat. The interior smelled of expensive cologne and new leather. Lily sat stiffly, her hands clasped tightly together as Victor settled across from her. The car pulled smoothly into traffic, and the hotel's golden lights faded behind them. For several moments, neither of them moved. Then Victor leaned forward slightly, his hands lifting to sign. He asked her if she understood what had happened tonight. Lily nodded slowly, though truthfully she felt lost. Victor's fingers moved with careful precision as he explained. He told her the world they had just left was built on perception and power. People watched him constantly, looking for weakness or vulnerability. His competitors searched for leverage. Shareholders questioned his focus. The press speculated about his personal life with increasing aggression. Lily frowned, signing back with growing confidence. She asked what any of this had to do with her. Victor's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. His hands shaped words that landed like small explosions in the quiet car. He told her he needed someone to stand beside him in public. Someone who would silence the rumors and questions. Someone who would allow him to control the narrative before others controlled it. For him, her heart pounded as understanding dawned. He was asking her to pretend, to play a role, to be seen with him at events and gatherings, to let the world believe they shared something real when it would all be carefully constructed fiction. She shook her head quickly, signing her refusal. She told him she could not do it, that people would see through the pretense immediately, that she did not belong in his world. Victor watched her for a long moment. Then his hands moved again, slower this time. He told her about someone he had loved years ago, a woman who had taught him sign language because her younger sister was deaf. They had planned to marry, to build a life together, but she had died in an accident that left Victor alone with a language he had sworn never to use again. Until tonight. Until he had seen Lily sitting in that ballroom surrounded by cruelty, and something had broken open inside him. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She understood loss. She understood the weight of silence that came not from lack of sound, but from lack of connection. Her hands lifted, signing a question that felt too bold. She asked why he would choose her, why he would risk his reputation on someone the world saw as broken. Victor's gray eyes hardened, and his hands moved with sudden force. He signed that she was not broken, that anyone who saw her that way revealed only their own limitations. He told her that pretending with her would be easier than pretending with anyone else, because she already understood the language of being underestimated. The car glided through the city streets. Buildings rose and fell outside the windows like silent sentinels. Lily pressed her fingers against the cool glass, watching her reflection waver in the darkness. Part of her wanted to refuse, to protect herself from the inevitable pain of entering a world that would never truly accept her. But another part remembered the way Victor had signed those 3 words. The way he had silenced her tormentors with nothing but his presence. The way he had made her feel, for the first time in years, like she was not invisible. She turned back to face him. Her hands moved with decision she did not entirely feel. She signed that she would try, that she would stand beside him and play the part he needed. But she made him promise that when the arrangement ended, she could return to her life without complications. Victor nodded once, a gesture that felt like a contract sealed. He leaned back against the seat, and for a moment his expression shifted. Something that might have been relief or satisfaction crossed his features. He signed one more thing before the car pulled to a stop outside her apartment building. He told her that starting tomorrow, her life would change. that she should prepare herself for attention and scrutiny. But he also promised that no one would ever mock her again. Not while she stood under his protection. The driver opened her door. Lily stepped onto the sidewalk, her legs unsteady. She looked back at Victor through the open door. Her hands lifted one final time, signing words that felt like both a warning and a plea. She told him they should make sure their pretending looked convincing, that half measures would only invite more questions. Victor's eyes held hers across the distance. His hands moved in response, forming words that sent heat rushing through her veins. He signed that he never did anything halfway, that when they appeared together, the world would have no choice but to believe. Then he gestured for the driver to close the door, and the car pulled away into the night. Lily stood alone on the empty sidewalk. Her apartment building rose above her, familiar and shabby compared to the world she had just left. She pressed a hand against her racing heart, feeling the echo of Victor's touch still lingering on her skin. She had agreed to something that terrified her. She had stepped into a role she did not know how to play, but as she climbed the stairs to her small home, she could not deny the spark of something dangerous and exhilarating burning beneath her fear. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen her not, despite her deafness, but while seeing all of her completely. And though she knew the arrangement was false, though she understood the risks, part of her wondered if pretending might somehow lead to something neither of them had planned. She unlocked her door and stepped inside. Tomorrow would bring changes she could not yet imagine. But tonight, she allowed herself to hold on to the memory of 3 signed words that had changed everything. Tonight, she let herself believe that maybe being seen was worth whatever price she would have to pay. Morning light filtered through the thin curtains of Lily's apartment, casting soft shadows across her small bedroom. She woke with her heart already racing, the memories of the previous night rushing back with startling clarity. For a moment, she wondered if it had all been an elaborate dream. Then her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Pulling her fully into wakefulness, the screen displayed a message from an unknown number. Lily opened it carefully, her eyes widening as she read the text. A car would arrive at 10 o'clock to take her to a boutique. Victor had arranged for her to be fitted with appropriate clothing for the events they would attend together. The message was professional and brief, yet it confirmed that everything had been real. Her life had shifted overnight into territory she did not recognize. She sat up slowly, pulling her knees to her chest. The burgundy dress from last night hung on her closet door, looking suddenly shabby in the morning light. She thought about the sleek gowns she had seen at the gala. The way fabric had seemed to flow like water over the bodies of women who belonged in that world. How could she possibly fit into that space, even temporarily? The car arrived precisely at 10. Lily stepped outside wearing her usual jeans and simple blouse, feeling acutely aware of how ordinary she looked. The driver nodded politely and opened the rear door. The ride through the city felt surreal, taking her away from the familiar streets of her neighborhood toward an area where boutiques lined the sidewalks with window displays that looked like art installations. The boutique was called Meridian, a name she recognized from fashion magazines left in the foundation's waiting room. Inside, soft music vibrated through speakers she could not hear, but she felt the rhythm in her chest. A woman approached with a warm smile, her lips moving slowly and clearly. She introduced herself as Sophie and explained that Victor had given specific instructions. Lily would need several outfits suitable for various occasions. From business dinners to charity galas, Sophie guided her through racks of clothing that felt like silk, cashmere against her fingertips. Lily tried on dress after dress, each one transforming her reflection into someone she barely recognized. A midnight blue gown that hugged her waist before flowing to the floor. A tailored black dress with elegant lines that made her look taller, more confident. A soft cream ensemble, perfect for afternoon events. Each piece cost more than she earned in a month, and the knowledge made her hands shake as she changed. When Sophie presented the final selection, Lily signed her concern about the expense. Sophie smiled and shook her head, her lips forming words about how everything had been handled. Victor Sterling took care of his commitments. The phrase lingered in Lily's mind as she left the boutique hours later, the car trunk filled with garment bags and shoeboxes. She was a commitment now, an obligation. The thought felt heavy and strangely hollow. That evening, Victor sent another message. They would attend a charity dinner the following night at the Harrington Hotel. The event would draw media attention. Their appearance together would be their first official public outing since the gala. Lily stared at the message for a long time before responding with a simple confirmation. She spent the next day in a state of nervous energy, unable to focus on her design work at the foundation. Rachel and James avoided her completely. They kept their distance across the office, their earlier cruelty replaced by something that looked like fear. Mrs. Patricia stopped by Lily's desk in the afternoon, her expression warm with genuine happiness. She told Lily that she deserved good things, that she had always been special. The kindness made Lily's throat tighten. But she could not explain that nothing about her situation was what it appeared to be. The night of the charity dinner arrived too quickly. Lily dressed carefully in the midnight blue gown, her hands trembling as she fastened delicate silver earrings Sophie had insisted suited her perfectly. The car arrived, and this time, Victor was already inside. He wore a charcoal suit that made his gray eyes seem even more striking. When Lily slid into the seat beside him, his gaze traveled over her appearance with an assessment that felt both professional and something deeper. His hands lifted in signs that moved with casual grace. He told her she looked appropriate for the evening. The word appropriate stung slightly, reminding her that this was all performance. But then his fingers moved again, adding that the color brought out the warmth in her eyes. The compliment felt unexpected, genuine, and it sent heat rising to her cheeks. The Harrington Hotel blazed with light as they arrived. Cameras flashed like lightning as the car door opened. Victor stepped out first, then turned and extended his hand to Lily. She took it, her fingers trembling slightly as she emerged into the glare of attention. Photographers shouted questions she could not hear, but she felt the energy of their interest pressing against her like a physical force. Victor's arm wrapped around her waist as they walked up the steps. The gesture looked natural, protective, but Lily felt every point where his body touched hers. Inside, the ballroom was filled with people whose names she recognized from newspapers and television. Business leaders, politicians, celebrities who moved through the world with effortless confidence. Victor guided her through the crowd, introducing her to person after person. Each time he included her name, made sure people acknowledged her presence before moving on. A reporter approached during dinner, a woman with sharp eyes and perfectly styled hair. Her lips formed questions about Victor's mysterious companion, about where they had met, about whether this was serious. Victor's hand found Lily's under the table, his fingers intertwining with hers in a gesture hidden from view, but anchoring her to the moment. He spoke calmly, his words measured, telling the reporter that some things were private, that his personal life would remain his own. But then, the reporter turned to Lily directly. Her lips shaped words deliberately, asking how it felt to be involved with someone from a completely different world, asking if the communication barrier ever caused problems. The questions felt like small cuts, each one designed to highlight how Lily did not belong. She felt Victor's hand tighten around hers, felt him preparing to intervene. But something inside her shifted. She lifted her free hand and signed her response. Knowing the reporter would not understand but not caring, she signed that love had nothing to do with hearing and everything to do with truly seeing another person. Victor's eyes widened slightly. He translated her words aloud, his voice carrying an edge that made the reporter step back. Then he added something that was not part of any arrangement they had discussed. He said that Lily understood things most people missed, that she saw the world with a clarity that came from paying attention to what mattered rather than being distracted by noise, that she had taught him more about genuine connection in a few days than he had experienced in years. The words hung in the air between them, feeling too real, too unguarded. The reporter retreated, but the damage was done. Or perhaps the foundation had been laid. Lily could not tell which. Throughout the rest of the evening, Victor remained close. When she struggled to follow a particularly animated conversation, he leaned in and signed quick summaries. When her heel caught on the edge of the dance floor and she stumbled, his arm was there immediately, steadying her before she could fall. Each gesture built upon the last, until Lily found herself forgetting this was pretend. They left near midnight, stepping into the cool air with camera flashes still following them. In the car, silence stretched between them like something living. Lily turned toward Victor, her hands lifting to sign a question that had been building all evening. She asked him why he had said those things to the reporter, why he had gone beyond what their arrangement required. Victor looked at her for a long moment. The city lights outside cast moving shadows across his face, making his expression difficult to read. His hands moved slowly, forming words that seemed to cost him something to share. He told her that pretending was becoming more difficult than he had anticipated, that she made it easy to forget they were acting, that somewhere between the gala and tonight, the lines had started to blur. Lily's breath caught. She wanted to tell him she felt the same way, that every touch and glance had begun to mean more than it should. But fear held her silent. Fear of being wrong, of wanting something that could never truly exist between them. Instead, she signed that they needed to be careful, that letting emotions interfere with their arrangement would only complicate things. Victor nodded, but something in his eyes suggested he disagreed. The car pulled up outside her building. Before she could reach for the door handle, Victor's hand caught her wrist gently. His fingers traced a slow path along her palm before he signed one final thing. He told her that complications were not always bad, that sometimes the most worthwhile things in life came from taking risks on what felt impossible. Then he released her and sat back, his expression closing off again into the unreadable mask he wore for the world. Lily stepped out of the car, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She climbed the stairs to her apartment in a daze, her mind replaying every moment of the evening inside. She stood before her mirror, still wearing the midnight blue gown. She looked like someone else, someone who belonged in Victor Sterling's world. But beneath the expensive fabric and styled hair, she was still just Lily Morgan. Still the deaf girl who designed posters for a community foundation. Still someone pretending to be something she was not. Except now the pretending felt less like a role and more like a glimpse of something she desperately wanted to make real. She pressed her fingers against her lips, remembering the weight of Victor's hand in hers, the way he had defended her without hesitation, the way he signed to her as if her language was the only one that mattered. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. She opened it to find a headline accompanied by a photo from tonight. The image showed her and Victor on the hotel steps, his arm around her waist, both of them looking at each other with expressions that seemed far too intimate for an arrangement. The headline speculated about a secret romance, about how the cold billionaire had finally found someone, melted his carefully constructed walls. Lily set the phone down and closed her eyes. The pretending had served its purpose. The world believed their story. But now she faced a different kind of danger, the risk that she had started believing it herself. That somewhere between signing 3 words at a gala and tonight's charity dinner, her heart had forgotten this was all supposed to be temporary. She changed into her pajamas and climbed into bed, but sleep would not come. Instead, she lay in the darkness thinking about gray eyes and sign language and the terrifying possibility that she had fallen for someone who had only promised her pretense. Tomorrow would bring new events, new appearances, new moments of closeness that would make forgetting the truth even harder. But tonight, alone in her small apartment, Lily allowed herself one dangerous indulgence. She let herself imagine what it might feel like if Victor's words to the reporter had been real, if he truly saw her the way he claimed, if their arrangement could somehow transform to something neither of them had planned, but both of them needed. The thought terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. And as she finally drifted toward sleep, she knew with absolute certainty that whatever happened next, her heart was no longer safely protected. She had crossed a line she could not uncross, and there was no going back to the simple life she had known. Before a billionaire had signed 3 words that changed everything,